have to say, somewhat bewildered. I mean, nothing like this, surely, has ever happened before.
It's certainly historic, and it caught people's attention. But when you said earlier that there's no way that this Biden administration would do something this high profile without the president signing off, because that's just too stupid to imagine, I would remind you that no one ever went broke underestimating the intelligence of President Joe Biden. So I just don't know.
But, you know, I mentioned earlier that I was at CPAC in Texas this weekend, and Trump's approval rating within the Republican Party and conservative movement is higher than even Ronald Reagan's was at the peak of his powers. It looks better than 50% chance that he is going to run again, that they are going to take the House, that they are going to take the Senate. I mean, won't this look, to fair mind, I mean, there'll be those that hate him and have always hated him, but won't this look to fair-minded people like an abuse of power?
So what are the three ways this can go? One way is they can come out and say, here it is, you know, Jimmy Hoffa's head, or whatever, you know, the guy who cuts Boris's hair, you know, what is some other horrible crime, you know, and that could be one way. Or they could come out with another way of, well, we didn't find anything. And then the immediate reaction is, why the heck would you do this 90 days before an election, knowing that he's likely to be the nominee of the other party? You know, if this were, you know, just to use an example, George H.W. Bush sending in someone for another Republican, you'd say, well, you know, got to look at crimes and this is the rule of law. But this is one party doing this to another party. So that's the other way, is they have nothing to show for this. But then what if, and you could argue this is the third one, is they come out and say, yes, he has 4 pieces of paper that should have been filed in Cabinet X. And, you know, it's basically, you know, an overdue library book. Are they really going to prosecute Donald Trump for the crime of this paperwork? And I don't want to even get into how the fact that up until the minute that Biden was sworn in, Donald Trump had the power to declassify every document. So he could have said, everything you're loading in the truck, I now declassify him, and that could be the whole thing. Don't even get sidetracked that way. What this is doing, it is feeding the belief among Republicans, even among less than enthusiastic Trump Republicans, that the guy has always been treated unfairly. And this is no Democrat, no matter how awful a Democrat was, no Jimmy Carter, no Joe Biden would ever be treated this way. And if that's what they're doing, is feeding that resentment, then they've created problems both in the midterm this November and probably, as you said, 2 years from now when Trump is the nominee.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, Mike Pence, you know, has not been much of a supporter of Donald Trump since the 6th of January for reasons that are fairly straightforward and obvious. And yet Pence has spoken up, you know, very strongly in his defense today. Watching Donald Trump, as you've done so closely over these years, we've seen the statement that he's put out and basically hinting that America's become a banana republic under Joe Biden. What do you think Trump's next move will be?
So if, you know, he's very good at theater, and this is a theatrical moment. You know, this was the problem with Trump. You know, COVID was terrible. Obviously, it was terrible for everyone. But from a standpoint of management, you know, that's not Trump's, strong suit, being consistent and calm. He's much better at short bursts of frantic activity designed for the cameras. And this is, you got blue lights out at his house in Florida. It's designed for the cameras. Interestingly, the reporting that we're seeing is that he's getting some people advising, jump in the race now. Just to take this opportunity. And other people saying, no, cool off and let the story develop. And like I said earlier, if it develops, there is in fact something related to a serious crime, then that changes obviously the entire trajectory, and we're having a very different conversation. But if there's nothing, you have to wonder if Trump doesn't have a showman's sense of timing of let these guys talk themselves into a cul-de-sac of how important we had to do something we've never done before. We had to treat an ex-president the way we've never treated one before. And then there's nothing. And then he steps in and, you know, pow, lays the Trump on him.